In a franchise filled with super soldiers, bioengineered tyrants, and elite government operatives, the most impressive survivor in Resident Evil history is a college student who just wanted to find her brother. Think about the heavy hitters of this universe. Claire Redfield is a military pilot turned elite STARS marksman. Leon Kennedy is a trained police officer who becomes the president's personal weapon. Jill Valentine is a Delta Force trained specialist. They were built for this. They were trained to hold the line when the world falls apart. Claire Redfield was trained to pass her university exams. Before she was even Claire, she wasn't supposed to be part of this military family. In the original, scrapped version of Resident Evil 2, known as 1.5, the protagonist was a blonde motorcycle racer named Elsa Walker, with no ties to STARS. When Capcom retooled the game, Elsa was transformed into Chris's younger sister. That single development pivot accidentally created the ultimate anomaly in the Resident Evil universe, a civilian who repeatedly walks into apocalyptic biohazards, out-survives the military professionals, and comes out the other side without losing her humanity. This is the story of the civilian advantage and why Claire Redfield is the true heart of survival horror. When you are trained by the military, you are trained to complete the mission. When things go wrong, you fall back on protocol. You secure the objective. You neutralize the threat. When Claire Redfield drove her motorcycle into the dying streets of Raccoon City at 19 years old, she had no protocol. She had no mission objective other than finding her brother. That lack of institutional programming is exactly what saved her, and more importantly, it is what saved Sherry Birkin. If a government operative had found a 12-year-old girl hiding in the Raccoon Police Department, the child would have been treated as an escort objective, a liability to be managed. Claire treated Sherry like a person. Claire's immediate instinctive pivot from "I need to find my brother" to "I am getting this child out of here alive" wasn't dictated by orders. It was dictated by pure empathy. That empathy is Claire's actual superpower. She does not survive by overpowering her enemies. She survives by building immediate, unshakable trust with the people around her. Sherry Birkin didn't survive because Claire was a better shot than the G-virus mutants. Sherry survived because Claire made her feel safe enough to keep moving. 3 months later, Claire is captured infiltrating an Umbrella facility in Paris and shipped to Rockfort Island. This is where the civilian advantage becomes undeniable. When the T-virus hits Rockfort, the Umbrella guards panic. The trained professionals, the people who actually know what the virus is and how the facility works, are slaughtered because their chain of command collapses. They wait for orders that never come. Claire doesn't wait for orders. She adapts instantly. When she meets Steve Burnside, she encounters a traumatized, angry 17-year-old who is a massive danger to himself and others. A trained operative would have disarmed him or left him behind. Claire talks him down. She manages Steve's fragile ego, builds a partnership out of thin air, and turns a volatile liability into the ally who ultimately saves her life in Antarctica. You cannot teach that in basic training. That is raw, unteachable emotional intelligence.
The most defining moment of Claire Redfield's life happens off-screen after the ashes of the Antarctic facility have cooled. Leon joins the Secret Service. Chris co-founds the BSAA. They both look at the horrors of Umbrella and decide to become swords to cut the monsters down. Claire looks at the exact same horrors and chooses to become a shield. She joins TerraSave, a human rights non-governmental organization dedicated to helping the victims of bioterrorism. She recognizes a fundamental truth that the rest of the cast misses. Shooting a tyrant doesn't rebuild a shattered community. Stopping the villain doesn't heal the people who lost their families to the virus. By remaining a civilian, Claire maintains a moral clarity that Chris and Leon frequently lose. Look at the contrast between her and Leon during the Harvardville airport outbreak in 2005 or the Death Island incident in 2015. Leon becomes a tired, traumatized government weapon who is constantly betrayed by his own superiors. Claire, at 36 years old during Death Island, pushes back against corrupt government officials with total confidence. She never has to compromise her ethics for a government cover-up. She is on the ground defending the survivors and digging up the truth that the governments want buried. During the 2011 Vovanya Island abduction, Claire is thrown into a deadly experiment alongside 20-year-old Moira Burton. Watch how Claire operates here. She is no longer the terrified college student. She is a seasoned veteran of biological warfare, but she still hasn't lost her warmth. She coaches Moira through her trauma with firearms. She takes the lead naturally, without ever demanding the kind of rigid authority a military commander would. When Alex Wesker tries to break them psychologically, Claire simply refuses to play the game. She has stared down William Birkin, Alexia Ashford, and the collapse of the world's most powerful pharmaceutical company. A delusional woman with a god complex on a dirty island doesn't even make Claire blink. She is battle-hardened, but her heart is entirely intact. In a universe that constantly asks its heroes to sacrifice their humanity to win the war, Claire Redfield simply said no. She never took the super serums. She never accepted the government badge. For decades, the franchise gave the massive, modern flagship titles to Leon and Chris, but that is finally changing. With the Summer Game Fest 2026 announcement of Resident Evil Veronica launching in 2027, Claire is officially stepping back into the modern survival horror spotlight. We are finally going to see the ultimate civilian survivor rendered with the scale, depth, and emotional weight she has always deserved. She stayed exactly who she was when she rode into Raccoon City, a girl in a red jacket who refuses to leave anyone behind. She proves that you don't need to be a weapon to save the world. Sometimes you just need to be a person who cares enough to stay when everyone else runs.